All right, so now let's pretend that we are at our home computer and or any other computer, and we have been working on this project at work, or we have been working on this project at school, and we want to bring it under source control. So we did that. We started making local changes. We pushed it up to GitHub. GitHub has the most recent information of all of our stuff, but we want to be able to work on another computer, and we don't want to have to do the code directly in GitHub. Not an issue. Okay, all we got to do is we have to clone our GitHub account. So there's a couple different ways that we could do it. One, we could clone directly from here. So I'm going to kind of walk through the steps for the first one, and then I'm going to execute it using the second option if you already authorize your GitHub account for GitKraken. Okay, so if we want to clone, all we have to do is we need to copy the source of our GitHub for that repo. And then we can come down to GitKraken, and we can click on the folder in the top left, and we can choose clone. Okay, if we clone with a URL, we are going to choose where we want to clone to. So I could say I want to clone to, let's call it a new folder, and let's say it's called source control web design 3, and we're pretending that this is my home computer. Okay, so I want to all the stuff that I did at school, all the stuff that I did at work, I want to now be able to work on that stuff, but at a different location. Let's say at my home. Okay, I can select that folder. That's where I want to clone all the stuff that I did and all the stuff that's synced up currently to GitHub. And then I can paste the link to it. Okay. Now, I don't really want a folder because see, this is doing where to clone to, and it's going to create this source control web design 3 folder, which, if we're looking at it, that is what we have right now. We have actually a different name. So if I create this folder that I just did, it's going to create inside of there that web design source control, which is the same repo name that we have from GitHub. So we're going to be a folder within a folder, a little bit too deep. I can retype, okay, web design 3. The problem is that this is going to get created inside of here. So if we don't want to be an additional level deep, then I don't need to choose the folder that already exists. I am going to create that folder exactly in the same location. So I could clone it this way, which is fine. I do find that some students get a little confused on if it's going to be creating one level too deep, and then you end up having an extra folder that you don't really need to deal with. So the way that I like to do it is, instead of having to copy directly from here, copying that link, what we can actually do with GitKraken is, because we already authorized our GitHub, and if you did not, the way that we can do it is we go to File, we're going to go to Preferences, and here where it says Authentication, and you click GitHub, if it didn't already say connected, it will say Authorize Now. You can go ahead and authorize. Okay? So after you do that, then it becomes very easy, because if I want to clone, I can say I want to clone from GitHub, and then I can choose the folder, the repo that's already online. So it makes it really, really easy. So web design source control, that's what I want. Okay, and I can choose the folder of where I want it to clone from. So I want it in web design, and it's not actually going to create in here. It's going to create an exact same name in my whatever folder I'm selecting. So if I have this, it's going to create it as web design source control, and that just can't be changed because you're creating it straight from GitHub. Okay, so if I choose to clone this repo, I do it. I can choose to open now. It is going to track all of those changes that are already existing. Okay, this is like a separate folder. If I make changes, now this is not going to track those changes. Let's just add a whole bunch of spaces so we can see. I go into Get Kraken. It is not tracking those changes because this is a completely separate project. The one that is being tracked is my source control 1 folder where I added a whole bunch of spaces. So if I wanted to work on my local computer, so let's not track those changes. Let's go back. Now I took out all those spaces automatically, but I wanted to actually work on my home computer. So I don't want to be here. I want to work on the file that I created a repo for on my local computer. I can choose open file and go to where I have that. So inside my web design, this web design source control, that is the folder that I just cloned from GitHub. If I wanted to make changes in that, so let's say I'm going to make some changes in my index page. I wanted to add a header. And inside my header, I want to add a nav. Oh, now you don't want to autocorrect for me. Nav. Okay. So I wanted to start building up my navigation with all my locations. I made those changes. I am on, this index is from a different folder. It is not this file. If I'm looking at both of them side by side, looking at those both side by side, one is index.html, where I added this stuff right here. That is inside my web design source control folder. That is the one that I just cloned from GitHub. The other index is the index that is on my computer at work or at school where my original project was. They are not automatically going to make those changes. But since this on my computer now is under source control, if I have that source control open, I can see that there was a change, and I can go ahead and I can check, and I can see that I added that stuff. So if I added that comment, the commit, so let's go ahead and stage that, and I added header section, and I go ahead and commit the change. Now that the computer that I'm working on, so say my home computer, it has one commit ahead of GitHub, so that means I need to push those changes up. Okay, I have pushed the changes up to GitHub. GitHub is now tracking that commit. If I want to bring that back to my work computer or my computer at school where I added that header section, then when I log in for the first time and I'm in that folder, what I need to do is I need to fetch if it didn't automatically show that my GitHub page is farther in advance. So I fetch, and it's showing me that now GitHub is tracking that change. To bring that down to my local computer, the one that I'm working on at work or at school, I would need to pull the change down from the cloud down to the ground level to my local computer. So I can go back and forth from a work computer, a school computer, to a home computer, and in the middle is my GitHub repo, because I'm always going to push any changes to that, and I'm always going to pull any changes from that. And as long as I keep my GitHub synced up, it's super easy for me to go back and forth from any location. All I have to do is just clone a repo from GitHub, and then I can just start making changes directly and pushing those changes up, pulling them down when I'm on a different computer. So I want to push my changes up to GitHub if my local computer is farther in advance. If my GitHub is farther in advance, a commit ahead or multiple commits ahead, then I want to pull those changes down. Now it brings them in line. If I'm looking at, so now this was my home computer where I added that header section, and this was my school computer where it didn't originally have that header section. Now it is showing that change because I went from one computer, synced up to GitHub, and then synced from GitHub to my school or my work computer. Okay? All right. Have fun and good luck.